Welcome back, my friends. I know we did not have a Monday Warhammer wrap-up yesterday, but it's really because I knew we'd have some stuff to talk about today. And when I woke up this morning, I was not disappointed. There are two big things happening with Warhammer and their TV stuff. First and foremost, today is December 10th, which means the episode for Warhammer in Secret Level is out today on Amazon Prime. I've already watched it several times, and I'm going to be giving you a breakdown of the whole episode in this video. But along with this news came something else that we got to talk about first. And that is some news about Warhammer's Amazon TV deal with Henry Cavill. So if you're a fan of Warhammer visual media, buckle up. But I'm HoodGuard here bringing you some Warhammer news. Let's get into it.
The Emperor's light is my torch! Death to the enemy! We shall be the end of you! Feel the might of the righteous! For the Emperor!
Alright, my friends, let's start out with the biggest news of today. The Amazon Warhammer TV show with Henry Cavill leading is a go. There's been quite a bit of silence from them since the last big update telling us that they were trying to iron out the details. And there's also been a lot of misinformation from the more terrible parts of the Warhammer community trying to say that Henry Cavill is out and it's too woke. So let me just read from the horse's mouth exactly what's going on with Amazon and Warhammer. This is coming straight from the Warhammer community article, and it says, "It's official. Games Workshop and Amazon Studios have finalized their deal. The creative guidelines are nailed down, and we're all set to bring Warhammer to the screen. For those of you so inclined, you can read the super jazzy legal announcement here," and they have a link to that announcement. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means we now have a synopsis and ordering for the stories we're going to tell. Yep, we said stories. It might have taken a year, but it was a year well spent. And what fun, sifting through the enormity of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, debating characters, story arcs, and the thematic grit that underpins it all. So what's next? When will the first project hit screens? It'll be some years. Project 1, which is what they're calling it, is about to go into development proper. So next up is the scripts that will form the basis of everything else to come. Of course, as with all carefully crafted things, this all takes time, and trust us when we say everyone involved is focused on getting it all just right. As soon as we know more, we'll let you know. In the meantime, don't forget the Warhammer 40,000 episode of Secret Level is available to watch over on Amazon Prime Video from the 10th of December. So there it is, black and white, all confirmed. It seems like even with Games Workshop's very strict way in which they handle their IP, they've nailed down a deal with Amazon and they're prepared to make a bunch of stories. And even if you're one of those people who doesn't believe Warhammer community articles for some reason, Henry Cavill himself posted today. He says in his post, "To celebrate some Warhammer news, I decided to make a pilgrimage to the very first place I bought Warhammer models over 30 years ago, the Little Shop on my home island of Jersey. My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been sifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over old tomes and texts. Our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start our universe, which has been agreed upon by those on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop. That starting place shall, for now, remain a secret. Watch this space though. More to come in time." Now, collating those two sources of information, I notice one thing. They've been very intentional to say that they have found a starting place for this universe. Warhammer is vast, we all know this. It covers 10,000 years of history. And you generally have two main camps of where to start your story. Do you start at the very beginning with the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy? Or do you try to appeal to the newer things and the newer audiences that are coming in by starting with the Indomitus Crusade or Guilliman? Only time will tell if it's one of those two or a completely different third thing. I also noticed that Henry very intentionally said that the higher-ups of both Amazon and Games Workshop have agreed to this. So when you see a female custodian in this new series and someone tries to say that Amazon is taking over Games Workshop, you know that's going to be false. And at the end of this article, they mentioned the Secret Level episode, which brings us to the next part of our video. If you just wanted to hear about Henry Cavill's project, you can bow out now, but let's go ahead and review everything that happened with Secret Level. If you are unfamiliar with Secret Level, let me give you a quick rundown. The team who created Love, Death, and Robots has created a series called Secret Level that follows 15 different video games, each episode being different. There's an episode on Sifu, on Pac-Man, on D&D, and there's also one on Warhammer 40,000. The first half of this series was released today, December 10th. I've already watched the Warhammer 40,000 episode about 3 times already, so let me give you a breakdown of the episode and then my own thoughts. The title of this Warhammer episode is very appropriately named, And They Shall Know No Fear. The show opens up with a flashback from our narrator, Mataris, who is a Blade Guard sergeant of the Ultramarines chapter. He is in his arming chamber preparing for a mission with 3 other of his brothers. 2 other Blade Guard veterans, Icaron and Levantis, and a more recognizable name, Lieutenant Titus of the 2nd Company. From the way Mataris speaks and the sequence of scenes that we just saw, it's implied that maybe Mataris was a reason that Titus joined the Ultramarines chapter. Whatever the case may be, the 4 Ultramarines gather in silence and head towards their drop pod. Titus, who has just come from fighting a bunch of Tyranids in Space Marine 2, is dragging behind him some sort of casket or case. And knowing how large a Space Marine is, this is a pretty large object. It might have something to do with their mission, which has 2 parts. First is to locate and destroy an apostate relic, and second is to secure the ordnance strike coordinates for this area. It says nothing about bringing anything to the battlefield or taking anything away. Down on this war-torn, desolate planet known as Zauj, there seems to be quite a bit of chaos taint. Mysterious black liquids drip upwards from the ground, and papers bearing heretical marks burn and unburn themselves in the air. The Ultramarines who have landed at this point are making their way through the city, but they aren't the only residents of this planet right now. Chaos cultists of some brand have realized that there are intruders in their space and rush to engage the Ultramarines. And even with dozens of cultists against 4 Ultramarines, it goes about as well as you would expect. I don't want to show too much from this fight because I want you all to go and experience it for yourself. But this encounter ends with Titus leaping at their heavy armor and taking it out for good. After jumping into what seems to be a gravity-defying abyss, they're engaged with our first look at what type of chaos is tainting this planet. Out of the darkness, attacking this small group of Ultramarines are a bunch of Zangors, Tzeentch's own. These horned monstrosities are trying to stop the Space Marines, but just like their cultists, their efforts are futile. But what they were guarding is exactly where our Ultramarines are headed. In a gigantic cavern whose roof is lost in the darkness, there is a gigantic statue of a Lord of Change. This could have been an earlier creation that was the root of the corruption of this planet, or something erected by the cultists themselves. Regardless, as soon as they see it, the Ultramarines decide at that point to unleash their actual weapon. Titus opens the case that he's been dragging along this whole time, and an astropath comes out. As he begins reciting litanies, the Ultramarines open up with their weapons on the statue and try to bring it down. And we see now why they brought the astropath. The statue itself has a lot of demonic and spiritual defenses. Ghostly hands reach out at the astropath trying to disturb his ritual. But all of this destruction, all of this violence only serves to unleash the actual danger in this chamber. A mutated Tzeentchian sorcerer is unleashed from this statue and attacks the Ultramarines. It quickly dispatches the astropath and then freezes the Ultramarines in their tracks. One by one, it goes up to each member of the squad and makes them relive a violent fear that they have. Both Icaron and Levantis are killed and Mataris is stabbed. But when this entity makes its way to Titus is when it meets its match. Titus is utterly devoid of fear, and he turns that feeling back on the sorcerer itself. Titus breaks both its weapon and its temporal field, and the sorcerer ends up just like its Zangor minions, split in half. Though Titus cannot save the other 2 Blade Guard veterans, he is able to drag Mataris to relative safety. They seem to share a moment where Titus affectionately calls him Old Man. And as Titus turns to face the oncoming cultist horde, Mataris sees a flashback of the boy that he once knew, devoid of fear both then and now. So first, right off the bat, I thought this episode was terrific. It also confirmed for me that the IGN reviewer that watched these, who said they all just felt like a bunch of video game trailers, clearly didn't watch this one. And maybe this story is something you have to know the context behind, you have to know the history in order to really appreciate it. Because this episode did 2 things. It gave us a glimpse into Titus's past and also what he's currently doing, really filling out a character that a lot of people have come to love and associate with. Although one of my key gripes about Warhammer media is still prevalent in this series, and that is just the lack of dialogue between characters. I understand that Space Marines are supposed to be emotionally stunted and stoic, but if that were always the case, we would never get books with Space Marine characters. I feel like if you were going to put the person who brought Titus into the Ultramarines in the same episode as him, there should have been a little bit more interaction. That is my only complaint. I love the episode. The fight scenes were out of this world. You should definitely go and watch it if you already haven't. Well, that's going to about do it for today, my friends. Thank you guys for always watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one.